Presiding Officer, I move the motion in my name. We gather today at the start of the 5th and final year of the 6th session of Scotland's National Parliament. Our Parliament is over a quarter of a century old, its place anchored at the heart of decision-making in Scotland today. A Parliament elected to chart a way forward for Scotland and to wrestle with the challenges that face our people. And in this session of Parliament, our country has faced a number of those challenges. The lasting effects of the COVID pandemic, the illegal invasion of Ukraine and its consequences for energy costs and security. In the Middle East, we have witnessed, and I have repeatedly condemned, Hamas's barbaric attacks on the 7th of October 2023, and I also share the concerns of other governments and other international leaders that the brutal actions of the Israeli government in Gaza constitute a genocide. This has unleashed widespread suffering and caused such anguish. And in the UK, we are seeing the prolonged application of austerity at a time of desperate need to rebuild in our society. So these are difficult days, and for many in our society, the implications of these events are that money is tight, prices are rising, and hope is in short supply. And the danger in such circumstances is that all of those difficulties are marshalled together to be made the fault of others in our society, that some get blamed for supposedly causing these problems. And that has been ever present during the summer recess, when migrants have been put in the spotlight and the politics of intolerance have been stoked by some. Well, let me be clear at the outset of this final year of this parliamentary session that I reject that demonising behaviour. Let me be clear that I intend to defeat the politics of fear and division by offering a clear, principled alternative based on the decent, welcoming values that have served Scotland so well throughout my lifetime.
Scotland has a voice. Scotland has a role in the world, and that's what we in the SNP are all about. The First Minister was quite right. What's happened over the summer period about the demonisation of some in the communities is absolutely disgraceful and needs to be called out. We've seen this before in history when those in the right actually attack minority groups. They've done it before. It's a game plan that they use all the time. That should be called out at every single occasion. And Presiding Officer, when it comes to the problem with climate, Westminster is actually still can't decide if climate change is a real thing or just another culture war to fight on GB News. I can't be bothered with that nonsense. So the choice is simple. You stick with Westminster or you look to the future and build a future with an independent Scotland where the Scottish people make the decisions for Scotland.
The second priority is about the climate emergency. And some may say that's the world that these young folk will inherit. But in Aberdeen, Europe's energy capital, the future net zero capital of the world, the journey to net zero has already started and it is already impacting on folks' lives. Many young folk have a parent who work in the energy industry. And when they grow up, if those jobs aren't there, then there's a big question mark about what jobs there will be. The third priority is growing the economy, and for Aberdeen, as I've already alluded to, the energy sector is our biggest economy. Thousands of folk in our city work for energy companies, thousands more work in the supply chain, and the money they spend supports a high proportion of other local jobs. For decades, the fortunes of Aberdeen have risen and fallen with oil prices, and throughout that time, we have looked at what a future without oil and gas might look like. Because whether it's phased out, forced out, or it runs out, there will come a point in time when Aberdeen no longer has an oil and gas industry. But being home to a workforce that is so highly skilled does offer us a golden opportunity to establish ourselves as a net zero capital. I'll take a quick intervention, but time is very tight.
Very grateful. The SNP's draft energy strategy maintains its presumption against new oil and gas. Does the member support that presumption?
Jackie Dunbar.
I'm talking about the offshore, the energy industry in Aberdeen, and you've gone off topic just slightly. The climate crisis and the efforts to tackle it will affect everyone, but with the right investment and support, Aberdeen will lead Scotland and the world in the move to net zero.
It's deeply disappointing. I want to focus on the climate emergency, because those targets were dumped because the SNP had not done the heavy lifting to meet them. And the climate emergency is not abstract. It's impacting on people's lives now. Flooding is disrupting rail services, damaging people's homes and communities. And last week, a damning report from Audit Scotland warned that the Scottish Government is failing to allocate the investment needed to make our communities safe from flooding. Over the last decade, costs have trebled, and local authorities now need clarity and certainty on funding, because the risk of flooding is increasing because of extreme weather. Coastal communities are vulnerable, as are homes in floodplains and beside rivers. There are 280,000 homes in Scotland currently at risk. And then there's the growing risk of wildfires. It's horrific what's happening across Europe, in Greece, in Spain, in Portugal. But we're also seeing wildfires here in Scotland. This summer, we had a fire that burned for several days in Uphall and West Lothian. Last month, we had a serious fire in Holyrood Park that lasted for days. It's thought that the fire was the result of human activity, so yes, we need to raise awareness of risk, but awareness alone is not enough.
People want and need politicians on their side, fighting for them. Free bus travel for young people, removing peak rail fares. These were policies that put money in people's pockets, took action to tackle the climate crisis and made life easier for normal people. And it is that kind of progress that's key to securing independence. We need to strain the existing powers of this place, show people the good of self-government. I think it undermines the argument for independence when our existing, limited but existing powers sit unused or underused. Yes, we are doing this with one hand tied behind our back, but we need to play the hand that we've been dealt. And we need to act to fix the everyday problems that people face. Because happy people make for an optimistic society, and I think that is the only way that we will achieve our goal of independence.
Sarah Boyack talked about action on climate. And I agree that we need action on climate and the transition. But here we are again with the lack of reality where the UK Labour government has a chance to act. So on Grangemouth, still without the cash that the UK Labour government promised. Yet they've managed to save a second steelworks in England, meanwhile. Unite the Union have called the Labour government out for the lack of action and the lack of cash that was promised. So let's get away from the rhetoric and let's stump up the cash that your government promised the workers of Grangemouth.
It's tough right now for the people we serve, and we're acting to address those concerns. I'll give way to Mr Ewing.
Fergus Ewing.
Most grateful to the First Minister for giving way. Whilst Norway forges ahead, our oil and gas industry is dying before our very eyes. Will the First Minister at last support it, or will he, like a modern-day Brutus, go down in history as its co-assassin?
First Minister.
I think the voices in the oil and gas sector that speak to me tell me that the cost regime that is applied by the taxation levels of the United Kingdom government, which this government does not support, is the actions that are undermining investment to sustain activity in the North Sea, as this government invests heavily in supporting the energy transition that we have to make to ensure that we achieve our objectives on climate change.
But we can't deny the fact that people are angry. Communities are being pulled apart. People, families feel unhappy, and it's because their lives are not getting better. This country isn't working for them. Whether it's the cost of living or the climate crisis, it's not because the systems are broken, they're rigged. And that's what we need to change. And to change it, we need to take on those who have rigged the system. We need to take on the super rich, the big polluters and the greedy landlords. My message to the people of Scotland is that the Scottish Green Party is on your side. We are fighting your corner. There are too many politicians, including now in this chamber, whipping up hatred in our communities, lying to the public about who the enemy is, Trans people and asylum seekers aren't the problem. They didn't sell off your community centre, privatise the buses or increase rents. We will take on the bigots and the con men directing that anger at the most vulnerable in our society. We will direct it at those who are often bankrolled by the people who are really at fault, the people who have really rigged the system. This country isn't working for ordinary people because it wasn't designed to. And I want to change that. I'm proud of the Greens' track record on changing the system. We have taken every opportunity to rebalance the scales in favour of our planet and ordinary people. We're delivering rent controls, taking power from the haves and giving it to the have-nots. We stand up for Scotland's natural heritage against corporate greed, like our campaign to protect Loch Lomond from Flamingoland. And we have fundamentally transferred wealth in this society, taxing those who can afford it, to expand the Scottish child payment, to expand free school meals, to deliver free bus travel for young people, to buck that UK-wide trend of rising child poverty. And yes, I'm proud that we did that through cooperation with colleagues in the SNP. But there is so much more to do. That's why the Green Amendment today focuses on our public finances and tax. It is outrageous that, as the Scottish Government confirmed last week, the 2% richest households in this country have more wealth than the bottom 50%.
The fundamental truth that anchors all of my politics is that the people who care most about Scotland, the people who choose to live here, should be the ones setting our nation's course, not politicians in Westminster for whom Scotland is too often just an afterthought. It is a principle that has been delivered in part by the creation of this Parliament. We have some ability, but limited ability, to shape our nation. But for so long as the big decisions over our budget, over our economy, over immigration, membership of the EU, energy, jobs and wages are taken elsewhere, there is a brake on what our country can achieve.